Hey everybody, welcome back to the Isaac Abrams Show. I'm your host, Isaac Abrams. Today's very special guest, comedian and philanthropist, Mr. Henry Sir. Welcome to the show, Henry.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
Henry and I just met last week, and we know literally nothing about each other, so we just did the best podcast we possibly could do for the last 15 minutes, and now we're going to try and recreate it for you guys. What I've recently learned is that you just moved here from Canada.
I've been in LA for about a year. I actually moved out here like February 24th, 2020. So
wow.
Yeah, it was awful. And then so I spent the pandemic back in Edmonton, and then got back out here when things were opening up.
Did you like show up and sign a lease and you had to like get out of it, or
it was lucky I was able to get out of it. It was a nightmare situation though. It was
what timing, man.
Yeah, and I mean like it is, so everybody has that kind of story. So at the time it felt just catastrophic, and now it's like whatever. But it was less than convenient for sure.
Man, so you had about 30 days and the world was starting to fall apart when you got here, and then it like
yeah, exactly. Like everyone was kind of, it was that whole like there's this thing called like coronavirus or whatever, and I have a group chat with buddies back home, one of which is a doctor who luckily from Edmonton lives here, which is such a great thing. But people are asking him like, is this really a big deal? And other people like, it's nothing. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh wait, I need to get back to Canada immediately.
I went to London in January of 2020. On the flight there, like 4 people had masks on. On the flight back, everybody had masks on.
Yeah.
And I was like super sick for like 2 weeks when I got back. So
oh, really?
I never got officially like tested and diagnosed that I had COVID, but I was like, I couldn't breathe. It was like the super flu, so I feel like I got the OG version.
Yeah, I still don't think I've had it, or I had it and I was just asymptomatic, and I feel like I've had to have had it at some point, especially being here and you're talking to mics with all these disgusting mutant comedians. How did you not get it?
Yeah, I try and I have a couple of mics. I try and flip them out and let one rest every other episode and like disinfect them. But like, you know,
that's smart.
It's just still, you're right. Like comedians are disgusting.
Oh,
people,
repulsive,
filthy human beings.
Just disgusting.
So Edmonton. Yeah. Growing up there, did you move around a lot, or is it just all Edmonton?
Well, actually, within Edmonton, I lived in like 4 or 5 different houses growing up. We were just constantly, it was weird, just constantly moving, and then spent 1 year living in the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Okay.
And then, my dad's from Iowa,
Killer.
And so he has a big family, most of which is based in Minnesota. So we moved there, didn't go well at all. A bunch of shit happened, and then we eventually moved back to Edmonton. Then I was living between Edmonton and New York, and then like we were saying, I had a good vouch in LA, so I figured screw it, let's do the LA thing, and you know, here we are.
And married lady, partner.
Yeah,
married.
Man. We just had our 7th anniversary on Monday. We've been together for 14 years though.
Wow, since high school, basically.
So my 3rd year of college, I was playing on the basketball team, and then it was her 1st year of college. She was playing on the women's basketball team.
All right.
And yeah, man, that was pretty much my first real relationship, and my only. It's all I know, man.
You're like, I got one. I'm sticking with it.
It's insane because I was one of those guys, not because I was some like wheeling and dealing playboy or anything. I was just like no relationships. Like I had friends and whatever that would get girlfriends. They start to suck, and in my immature way, I was like, girlfriends are bad.
Right.
And then I've been with Kaylee for 14 fucking years.
They take away from bro time.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was like that for a very, very long time. Yeah. Women are awesome.
Yeah, they're fun.
They're fun, man. They're great.
Yeah, no, my wife's a great person, man.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes it's like I worry about it. Like, do I sound cheesy? But who cares? No, she's my wife. I love her. She's great. She's
what's cheesy is comics that are still doing, take my wife. You know,
no,
like,
exactly.
Oh, I fucking hate my old lady.
Yeah.
Like,
get a divorce then.
Right.
Shut up.
Yeah. Like, tell us the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, some people, you know, like Bill Burr can pull it off. He's like, he loves his wife.
Totally.
And I've actually worked with her a bunch of times. She used to do wardrobe on like commercials and stuff and TV.
Oh, cool.
Back when they were dating, we worked together a couple times.
Oh, cool.
And I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like you can't make fun of your wife. It would be insane if you didn't. Like, she's the person I spend virtually all of my time with. So I like joking about, maybe it's hacky relationship marriage stuff, but of course you get in your weird little weird little arguments, and you have your weird little eccentricities with each other, and it's fun, relatable stuff to talk about.
100%. I think that's what happens sometimes in the LA comedy bubble. It's like people do like either woke stuff or like whatever, political stuff.
Yeah.
But like what you're really doing is working on your hour to take it on the road. And what's most relatable to the flyover states in the Midwest and like the places that are paying you to be a comic.
Yeah.
It's like, me and the wife went down to the grocery store the other day. It's like relatable. I mean, they're, you know,
oh yeah.
As I sit here completely unmarried and never divorced.
Well, no, it's totally true though. Like I was just in Winnipeg, so that's very much like the Midwest kind of thing, very middle of the country, everyman, working class city, and a lot of the crowds at the club were there, especially one night. It was like an older crowd, but they were cool. But you know, I realized like I'm not going to come out here and just make like references for people my age. Like get them on board, and the easy way to do that is still in my own way. Like do some of my relationship material stuff, get them on my side, and then that can give you the liberty to delve into the other things when they actually like you. So you totally
see where it's going from stage, and you go, oh well, they're not gonna like that.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy that just comes out and says all my like references for millennials and then just talks about how stupid that crowd was. It's like, well, no, you didn't connect with them. You know
exactly. I just had a buddy on, Anthony Davis, and in his opening joke, he's got 3 tags, and one's clean, one's kind of dirty, and one's like filthy.
Yeah.
And based on those tags and the reaction, he goes, I have this set, or this set, and he just goes right off the first joke. He's like, all right, I'm shifting gears. I'm going this way.
That's
like,
cool.
Wow. I mean, I don't think I could do that. Like,
well, that's the fun thing, especially when you like I was saying before, I'm lucky being Canadian that I can headline in Canada because you don't really need like a huge following or anything to do it. And I do some clubs down here, but that's really fun the longer I've done it. And like the bobbing and weaving and rearranging a set of like, because I was doing hours, so it was really fun in my mind. I was like, I'd like to get to this kind of topic first, but if I was like, I think I need to get them on my side a little bit more, so I'll go to that later chunk that I know they'll be into, and then again earn their trust so I can go into more what I want to talk about. That's a super, super fun part about headlining that I find so enjoyable.
And that's the thing. That's the stuff that only comes with like headlining for a while.
Yeah, I've been lucky like to headline enough now and do enough like hour-long sets that, you know, it's not like I'm saying anything. I can just do it in my sleep, but I feel very comfortable with it now. It's weird. Like I honestly feel more comfortable doing 45 minutes to an hour than I do doing like a 7 to 10 minute showcase.
I feel super rushed when I have like, oh, you got 6 minutes. I'm like, I can't even get a story off the ground in 6 minutes.
This was the first time, I will say though, like when it finally clicked to me, and I've heard other comedians talk about this, like when I came back to LA and I had a good week of shows, and I just finally clicked to like condense, like if you have a 10-minute set, take a 20-minute segment, but just the pauses and stuff, like just get rid of those and just muscle through it. So it's just kind of like bang, 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 punchline. It feels like I should have clicked to me before, but that's the first time that clicked to me, which is exciting. I really like noting the steps and the progress along the way of comedy.
Yeah. That's the one thing I love about being a comedy photographer is that like I'll see someone just burn their hour on a special, and then the first time they're back up, they got nothing. And they're like, all right. So, and then you watch that, and then 6 months later, that 15 or 10 or whatever is like super polished, and now they're adding stuff to the end, and they're moving stuff around, and that's the military flying over our heads.
They found us.
They got us.
They found us, man.
It's been a good run.
It was a good run.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. People come down like shh, they can slide down on ropes. Yeah. I feel like I'm going to take a stab at this, and if this doesn't work, well, I'm going to cut it the fuck out. But you said Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Did they become the Carolina Hurricanes?
No, they're still the Oilers.
But wasn't there a connection in hockey somewhere between Edmonton and what the Carolina Hurricanes were before? I don't expect you to know a lot about the Carolina Hurricanes either.
Well, so I'm actually pretty late to the Oilers train. I'm being an asshole, contrarian, comedian type. I'm a basketball guy, and no one in Edmonton could have cared less about basketball growing up. So just to like stick it to all them, I refused to learn how to skate. I just said I hate hockey.
Really?
I hated it. I didn't actually. I just felt like I wanted to hate it because, again, just being an angry kid and a contrarian. So I'm pretty late to just getting to the point of being like, stop being an asshole. That's your city. That's the team that embodies your city. So just enjoy it. But I have no idea. But the Oilers are still very much a thing in Edmonton.
Right. Yeah. I know that they're still there. But I don't know. I got a really good hockey buddy back in North Carolina that's just losing his mind right now. It's like, what are you talking about? But he just looks for these old vintage shirts of what the Hurricanes were before they came to Carolina, and I'm gonna definitely cut this.
This is the clip.
Yeah,
this is the clip.
Now I clip out how much I don't know about hockey. But so you got drawn back into hockey eventually? You were like, it's in my blood. Like,
well, it's just like absence makes the heart grow fonder, I think, and being away from Edmonton, like a lot of cities, I think Edmonton's one of those cities that you kind of have to hate when you come from there. At some point you have to have that whole like, this Edmonton's everything wrong with the world, just a bunch of angry rednecks on one side and then just a bunch of disingenuous hipsters on the other, and there's no in between, and it's disgusting, it's boring, there's nothing to do. And then as you get older and you get a little perspective on stuff, especially living in a city like LA where so many people are just up their own ass with everything, it's so nice in Edmonton, like, oh, you're just people, you're just real people, and I have such a greater appreciation for it now. And also the Oilers have Connor McDavid, who's maybe like the best player on the planet right now. So it just got to that point where it's like, just enjoy it, man. Just appreciate it. Stop being an idiot.
Yeah. And then there's just more relatable stuff to talk about when you get home to Canada.
No, exactly. It's cool. They had a great playoff run, and they haven't had one in a long time. And the Oilers to Edmonton really does it truly is pretty similar, from what I understand, to like what the Packers mean to Green Bay.
Yeah,
like it's a religion in Edmonton. That team means so much to the city. So that was cool, and they smashed Calgary in the playoffs, which was big. So that was awesome to see, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
I watched the playoffs of all the sports. Yeah, I don't watch any regular season games of any sport unless the Dodgers are on at the bar.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and then people are like, "Oh, this guy's got a did," and I'm like, I don't. The only reason I know that guy's name is because it's on his jersey.
Yeah, exactly. I'm way less into it than I used to be. Like, I'm definitely still a basketball guy, but I don't know. Even post COVID, when I just got, like a lot of people, so much more existential and nihilistic, I just had a tough time justifying, like, I can't spend 3 hours every night watching men I have nothing to do with play a game.
Right.
Like, I grew up playing basketball. I played it through college. Basketball was my life for a long time, and now I still enjoy it, but again, maybe just being more nihilistic and existential post-COVID, I am also more now like, God, sports are stupid. I like them. I really enjoy them, but they're so dumb, and to obsess over them and to stress over it and to spend that much time thinking about it, to me, I was just like, this is not a good use of time for me.
I totally agree, but I think that it's great for the masses.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
For the 9-to-5er who's just like, I'm working the same job for 40 years. I'm going to come home, I'm going to eat dinner, I want to sit in my recliner, I want to chill the fuck out and not think about my coal mining job.
Totally.
It's perfect.
Entertainment.
Everybody needs something to be into, right?
Yeah.
From NASCAR to sports to comedy, movies. Some people would rather just watch a movie and tune out. So I'm glad they exist, and I'm glad I have the option to check them out every once in a while.
Yeah, I still follow it very closely. I play fantasy football. I really enjoy it. Just, again, for me personally, I was like, I feel like I need to use my time differently. Otherwise, I'm going to go even more insane than I already feel.
Yeah. Speaking of time, what's your process like? Do you write every day? Do you write on stage? Is your hour cooked up already and you don't really need to write right now? Are you writing your next hour? Is that too many questions at once?
No, that's great. I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, I used to very much be like, I think like a lot of comics when I first started, I wrote word for word down, and then I essentially recited a monologue and tried to not sound too stiff on it. And then it became more like just write a few lines here and there. But I used to really, really write, and I would write every day. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but again, COVID happened, and I had a lot of different creative outlets I was doing. Like, just for the fun of it, I did a lot of drawing, a lot of doodling, did a lot of music recording. And I was like, I can't write jokes. What's the point? I feel like a lunatic. I'm just sitting here writing little zany quips.
Yes.
But that was a long time to go without writing jokes. And the writing whole process is so different now, where I do write a lot more on stage. And I sometimes get self-conscious, like, am I not writing enough? Am I not a good writer anymore? But it's been fun, where a difference now is like, I'll go up with an idea when I can, and it's tough to do this in LA, but what I really am enjoying now is not really even knowing where the jokes are, and then a certain line will get a good pop, and you're like, oh, okay, so there's something there, and then delve into what was funny about that, and then build on, expand on it. So mainly writing on stage with a little bit of revision after the fact. And it was cool though, like going out, I did Calgary and Winnipeg, so I did 10 shows, all were an hour. I did a little bit of stuff from my first album, and a lot of these were actually old jokes that I'd written a while ago, but I wasn't good enough to really make them funny yet. They were just ideas, and now it's essentially going back to those ones. And of the hour I did, it was pretty much like 45 to 50 of it was new.
Wow.
So I was really actually psyched with that. But I do hope I can get back to a point where it's more like writing out specific punchlines, because I don't know, this whole process of it, something about it just makes me a bit nervous. Like this isn't a good way to do it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. The first thing that I want to relate to is like finding pops that you did, like when you write it down word for word, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of like performance recital, and then something pops and you're like, what are you laughing at? That's not the funny's coming in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I have a story where all I do is that I say that I worked with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I would never in my life go pause for laughs, and I got like an applause break in Minnesota. It was like, oh yeah, we love Dwayne, and I'm like, hold on.
That's not the joke.
That's not the joke. The joke is that my career took me from working with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to the Mall of America to do 10 minutes. But yeah, it's so odd to get and I'm so new to it that like the first time that you get a pop that you don't expect, you're like, whoa, what? Am I in the same room?
Isn't it a great feeling?
It's getting a laugh.
Oh man,
dude. But I have that hangs over me when I'm writing.
Yeah,
and I'm still in the word for word phase. Which gives me massive anxiety because I can't memorize anything. The reason I'm not an actor is because I can't look at a page and go, action.
Right.
Like, just at the minute the camera's on, it's like, I can't. Yeah. So I need, I got to riff and do a lot of crowd work.
That's great. It's your style.
But that's impossible to practice.
Totally. And I would bet that in 4 years from now, your style is probably going to feel, I don't know about totally, but substantially different.
Oh, yeah.
That was the thing I really have enjoyed at times, looking back and being 4 or 5 years and being like, I've gotten pretty good at this. And I know my voice. And then 3 years later being like, oh, you didn't at all. Right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And now feeling like I'm getting to a point as a comic that I'm excited about, but also understanding 5 years from now, I'm sure I'll look back and not have to beat myself up over it, but just know like, oh man, you sure did learn a lot since then, which is pretty cool. But I've tried to not overthink the whole writing thing because I've been coming up. I've got enough good new bits I'm actually pretty psyched about, but I do hope I can find that like kind of marriage between the two of writing on stage, but also just having good punchlines I'm really psyched about. I just write, if I get an idea, I write it down in my phone.
Same.
And then I'll go back to it. But it's very much like I just write premises in my phone and then try and figure out what the jokes are after the fact, now at least.
Yeah. I think that's a great system. I'd like to set up something in my bedroom, because when I'm falling asleep or when I'm waking up, my brain is like, joke.
Oh, really?
Joke. And I just want to be able to be like, hey Siri or hey Alexa or whatever, take a note, blah, 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 and like just try and get the joke out of my head and then fall back asleep. And then it's like probably going to record 12 hours of me snoring.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like the whole smart devices in your house kind of thing, because not that the government's listening to me, but
it is a little tough to not be a bit paranoid about that sort of thing.
Yeah, you could be, but my paranoia is, and sorry to shift into this, but it's like, I have a phone. The phone's going to do all the same listening that all these other things are. So it's a little hypocritical and silly to be like, well, I'm not plugging that thing in, but oh shit, my phone's about to die. And I can never turn my phone off.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. So Canada, 12 years of comedy. Yeah, so when you go to work in Canada, so you still on the weekends, you're on a plane, you're headlining in Canada. And then,
well, so I'm trying to be here as much as possible, but then so in March I went and did Ottawa and Toronto, and then I'm just trying to hunker down in LA as much as possible, but then it worked out that I could go do Calgary and then the weekend after do Winnipeg. So I'm trying to find that blend, because I don't want to be on the road too much, because I feel the whole reason of why I'm in LA specifically is just visibility.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be that guy that's here Monday to Wednesday, then on the road. I feel like I really need to be hunkered down here, but when the right opportunity or whatever will come up, then definitely, especially when it's like you're showcasing over and over again, I need to stretch the legs and feel like a proper comic again. So being able to go and do 45 to an hour a bunch of times, I can feel like, oh, right. Like I feel less like in my head of like, do I suck at this? Am I even a comedian? It helps me feel like a proper comic again.
Well, I mean, I think if you blend it, right? What do I know, right? But like if you mix between, I guess the point I'm driving at is that if you do stay in LA on the weekends, all of the people that are working out, all the mega hitters, they're gone. They're on the road. So you have these opportunities for these really great spots and these really great crowds, like Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And then you're only up against, it's not a competition, but like competing for spots with like the couple of headliners that didn't go out this weekend. Yeah,
I'm still trying to navigate that whole thing. I was really in my head when I first got out here, again, post-COVID, of being like, oh my God, I should have went back to New York. Because I really... I've been thinking about this. I don't even think in terms of myself of like, wow, I'm really good at stand-up. That's not what I think about. I just love doing stand-up. I love it more than anything I've ever done. And so at times it's hard to have that mindset and be like, why the hell did I come out here then?
Right.
But also, because and the reason I say that is like, for maybe if people who don't know, like it's so much more easy to get a lot of good stage time in New York. Just in terms of how that whole system is built, whereas here, like a good week could be, for a guy like me, could be 4 shows, which is great. But in New York, it is more that like you could do that in a night sort of thing.
Every night.
But also, as a comedian, sometimes you have to force yourself to do this. Like, my wife matters and her choice matters, and she prefers LA.
Yeah.
And it's closer and easier for family and friends to get out here. It's more desirable for people back home to come out to LA for a weekend than do the haul out to New York. And also trying to be a little bit more calculative. Hopefully, the more writing and acting opportunity. The only reason I'm really interested in the acting thing is so that it can lend itself to visibility for stand-up, honestly. But, point being, I was really in my head as such a stand-up driven guy of like, why did you come out here? But I think that's a lot of people in LA as stand-ups question that at times.
Yeah, and it's not like you can't just take the wife to New York for a week and grab an Airbnb and do 100 spots.
Well, that's the hope, is I really want to get to a point where, and I feel good about the way things are going. I want to get to that point where I can, go do the clubs in Canada, get in with more clubs down here, and then go to New York 3 times a year for 2 weeks, do just a shit ton of spots, come back here, and then hopefully get into the whole like auditioning and being able to submit writing pipeline sort of thing. But it's I feel like pretty much being here a year now, I'm starting to enjoy LA more and understand you need to enjoy the city itself. It's so dangerous to just get all of your value in this experience out of stand-up, because I don't care if you're in LA or New York or wherever. If that's all you're doing, that's just leading to a pretty miserable lifestyle for most people.
If you don't have life experiences, what are you going to write about?
No, exactly, man.
And
exactly.
I tell young cats that all the time. And I don't know what I'm doing out there giving young comics advice. I'm just an old dude that likes to tell
you've been
people,
around it for a long time.
I mean, I've been around the business of comedy a long time, and I've directed and been on the commercial side of things for 15 years. So it's like, when they have questions of like, oh, what's it going to be like when I'm on a TV show? I'm like, well, I can totally tell you it's not anything like you think it is. It's going to be like this. And then, we'll swap tips, and they'll be like, oh, the thing you think about comedy isn't. But what I tell this young cat that I hang out with a lot, especially, is like, he's like, I have writer's block. And I'm like, you're 21.
Yeah.
You have writer's block. You just have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Like,
nothing's happened in your life yet. Yeah.
Yeah. More shit happened to me last year that I forgot about.
Yeah.
It's already, I mean, you just got out of high school, dude.
Totally. That's crazy.
And then how do you get relatability at 21? I mean, look, Chappelle did it.
Sure.
At 17.
Sure.
He also went to a very prestigious school that taught him how to do that very young,
exactly.
Which I didn't know until his last speech.
I know. I didn't watch his last speech, and it's like, I don't think it's hot take. Like, I just don't care. And I don't watch a ton of, I really like watching stand-up in person. I don't watch a lot of specials. Just, I don't watch much stuff anyways. Right. But yeah, people were telling me that about it. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
He's like a performance school? Which is cool. I wouldn't have guessed that.
I wouldn't have either, and I like the narrative of him just like waking up one day and be like, I think I'm going to be the funniest man that's ever lived, and then just fucking going and doing it. The training, to me, takes a little bit away from it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if he was being facetious, but he, in his last speech, he's all like, I am the greatest comic of our generation. It will take decades for them to replace me. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, we all thought that, but like, it's different when you say it about you. Let us tell you you're great.
Ugh, that's very off-putting. That's very off-putting.
I might cut that out. We'll see. Depends. So being new to LA, right? Yeah. So I've got the old fog LA eyes. When I drive it, I'm like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
What's the, like, when you got here, where you're like, wow, I've always seen that on TV. What's the hot shit for you? Is it a Hollywood sign?
That's a tough one to answer, because without delving too much in, I hope I'm not too all over the place with this, but like, most of my experience with LA, I've never really been in a good frame of mind. Like, I struggle a lot with some mental health issues, and when we first came out here years and years and years ago, I was struggling so badly with depression and obsessive compulsive disorder that it was just a miserable experience for me. And anywhere would have been a miserable experience for me. So it's just like I had the blinders on, and I don't even know what it was. Then we came back out, and for me, it's very much the ocean, though. When I'm level-headed and clear-minded, like as a little kid, not even knowing what it meant or why I wanted it, I always had this vision of like surfing, being on the ocean, having an acoustic guitar with me, and just kind of being a beach bum. And now I have to check myself and be like, I don't surf, but I bodyboard, and I take my guitar with me, and I'm out there with my wife and the dog, and I'm like, you're doing the thing, man.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the ocean, palm trees, blue skies. Edmonton's a very cold city, especially in the winter. So getting out here, and especially when I'm doing a good job of being present and grateful and all that good shit, 100% the beach. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Did you notice that the sunny weather improved your mental health?
Definitely. It still struggle with it, and that was actually pretty upsetting to me at one point of how quickly I adjusted. Of, this is like a different planet than Edmonton, but how quickly I adjusted to looking around, and also I was not in a good living situation. Like, the wife was still in Canada, and I was just doing these like month-to-month rentals, and some of them were just these disgusting places. So anyone would be pretty unhappy in that situation, especially when you're predisposed with being a lunatic. And but I was bummed of how quickly it's like the palm trees and the sunshine wore off, and I'm like, well, I'm still me, so that's cool that it's hot and I'm sweating, but it's still my shitty brain processing all of this. But again, through a lot more work and trying to be cognizant of all that stuff, I definitely have an improvement, because I can't tell you how tough those winters in a place like Edmonton are, man. It's like, we're really up north, so it's that kind of thing where for most people it's like, before they get to the office in the morning, the sun hasn't come up, and by the time they leave, the sun's already down. And we're talking like literally one of the coldest cities in the world on some nights.
Wow.
The summers are incredible because the sun barely goes down. It's not like Finland, but like it doesn't get black. It just goes to this like kind of like dark shade of blue. I miss that. It's gotta
be hard to sleep too, though. It's like,
no, it's great. It's amazing. It's amazing.
The closest I've been is like somewhere in the Midwest, right before the time zone change. We were filming something. It doesn't even matter what it was, but like it was 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and the sun was just like barely starting to set. I was like,
man,
this is insane. If you go 30 minutes that way, then the sun sets an hour earlier because the time change is just. I found that when I moved here, my winter. No, I mean, look, when the sun goes down at 4:30. Like it's a bummer no matter where you live.
I wasn't ready for that. I didn't know that was a thing. How quickly it got black.
Yeah. It's nuts. But they just voted to get rid of daylight savings time.
Yes.
But it's not going to be enacted until like I think March or April of 2023.
Oh, okay.
So we got one more round of like this winter. It's going to be fucking 4:30, and it's like, who can get to the beach by 4:30 to watch the sunset?
I know, it was crazy. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah. So that that's a little tough. It's like doesn't get cold, but it's dark a lot here.
Yeah, exactly. It was just so evident, apparent to me that. Wherever you go, there you are.
Exactly.
So you can be in this absolutely beautiful climate, but if you're not taking care of yourself mentally and everything, if you're in a shitty state of mind, it doesn't matter if you're on a private island in Hawaii or if you're in fucking Antarctica, it doesn't matter. And everywhere has its pros and cons.
Yeah. Do you do you have a regiment for your mental health? Do you like, I got to work out, I got to do this?
Yeah. I mean, I've like, not to plug it too much, but that's why I started this like podcast about mental health. It's like a comedy podcast about mental health, but because I just feel like it's so close and near and dear to me. Like I've from a clinical side, I turned 34 in a few weeks, but I've struggled with this and need to be on medication since I was 12. And there's been a lot of peaks and valleys and highs and lows, and there always will be. But I think I just understand myself a lot more now and how to manage this stuff a lot more now. So I don't have like a really strict regimen. I just kind of understand in general, like don't sleep in too late, make sure to exercise, do the things like, you know, the meditate, have a gratitude journal, just journal a little bit, and all these different little creative outlets that make me feel really good. And it's tough because my big challenge with comedy right now is getting more known, and social media is so useful for that, but social media really fucks with me. It makes me feel so awful about myself too. I become a child and I throw little temper tantrums because it just makes me feel so shitty about myself, and the self-doubt that I already live with pretty consistently just gets amplified by a fucking 1,000. Yeah. So that's one of the trickiest parts to me, is especially in a city like this in LA where, you know, and doing a thing like comedy where you don't want to get your worth as a person through that sort of thing, but in a way you kind of have to.
Yeah, it sucks that it feels like a social credit system. It's like, how many followers do you have? And it's like, well, that doesn't matter because you can buy followers now. So like,
I know.
And it really comes down to like, if you post every day or post twice a day or post 3 times a day or whatever, and you put the work in, you can, if the content is good, you can amass this huge following. Does that convert to ticket sales? Who knows? Maybe they just like watching you do haha stuff on their phone when they're taking a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but to look at it and go, oh man, that's my number. That's where I'm at. Like, that's my value. And it's like, that can really bum you out. And then when you do create a piece of content, like I just posted something that I think is hot fire right before we started this podcast. And the urge to like pick my phone up, even while I'm having this conversation with you, is like, how is it doing? Did they accept it? Like, because I wanted to collaborate with somebody. Like,
am I worthwhile?
Am I being validated?
It's tough, and I get it. I was for too long, admittedly, like, nah, it's a fad. It doesn't really matter. It's all about stand-up, and realizing like that there is some merit to it just being all about stand-up. But if it's your livelihood you're talking about, it's you have to embrace it. You just have to accept it. But it is tough because I've had some like brushes with industry people where they do the whole like, wow, like you're so developed as a stand-up. We really like your stand-up. But then essentially in a polite way being like, let us know if you become famous kind of thing.
Right.
Like, well, what?
Yeah, because there's the whole 80,000 to 100,000 Instagram followers to headline rule of thumb, at least in this town. It's like, all right, cool, 100,000, great. I will write a check to whoever does the 100,000 dump, and
exactly.
Yeah, it's just it's so silly, and I hate being a part of it. But there are ways to like map out your social for the month, and just like, because you can, if you go on your laptop through the Facebook, like backstage of Facebook. In YouTube, they call it the Creator Studio, right?
Right.
And maybe they call it on Facebook too. You can pre-post for Instagram,
time it out,
and you could take an hour a month and go, this is the shit that I'm posting for, and then you could just post and ghost and go, I wonder how my social media is doing.
Oh, it'd be so much better if I actually took the time to figure out how to do that, because that shit really messes with my mental health. Man. And it's just tough because it's like I said, I get it. That's why I'm not trying to plug my podcast too much on, but I was talking about this on the first episode, but I get it from a business standpoint. You need to put asses in the seats. I understand that. I'm not opposed to that. It's just so hard. I think people in general in society say they're mental health advocates because they have to, but it's just so hard when, especially like entertainment industry, it really kind of puts on this facade of like a broken mind is no different than a broken back. Mental health matters. It's like, I know you think you mean that, but like inherently we can't really mean that when social media would put aside entertainment, the little kids that grew up with it, like scientifically it is so bad for your mental health, and it is so important in our society. So like there can't be this much of a contradiction and we actually mean it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I swear I don't mean this in some jaded, like it's unfair way. It's just an observation of how things are right now, and it's shitty. It's really shitty that
Yeah.
social media is so prevalent and mental health is suffering so much right now. And it's not all social media's fault. Doesn't help though.
It also doesn't help that like some people that aren't, I mean, everything's a spectrum, right? And the problem with mental health is that I can't look at you and go, yeah, you're about at 80, 85. You know what I mean? Like, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like if you break your arm, I know you broke your arm.
Right.
But like, and we're all just trapped in these little like meat suits, and
man.
I don't know. Like, I think about this all the time. What if I just have this coping thing that I do, and maybe it's alcohol or weed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I do that, but it's like, I always think about this. Like, what's your base level of pain, right? What if your base level of pain? What if you have this nagging thing in your elbow,
right?
And to somebody else, they would go immediately to the hospital,
right?
But you live with it all the time because it's just my elbow. That's how I feel all the time.
Yeah, no, totally, man.
And that's how I think about mental health. It's like, am I nuts?
Yeah.
I mean, the older I get, the more I really got to keep up on it. But I found recently that like working out every day, and seeing the ocean as much as I can, like, it really does help. But before I go off on a huge rant, I don't think we've actually plugged the show yet. What's the name of your podcast?
It's called the Intrusive Thoughtcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was one of those things where a lot of it had to do with my frustration and insecurities around social media and posting content. And I was just like, if I'm going to post content, I want to actually feel okay with it. And truly, all the power to the people that are doing all the clips that do really well. But I was like, I don't want to just like replicate what other stand-ups are doing. I don't want the post that I actually enjoy doing. I do this stupid character called Influencer Henry, where I'm like an influencer coach, and I just make fun of how stupid influencers are.
Yeah.
But then my podcast, I was like, I want to believe in it, man. So I shared this thing on social media that was just like a list of these intrusive thoughts and how to cope with them. And I was really surprised how many people like reached out and were just like, thank you for sharing this. I really needed to see this right now.
Yeah.
And in my stand-up, I started with jokes. It's not like a preachy thing, just started joking about mental health more. And a lot of people, especially like in Western Canada, these like burly, manly men kind of dudes would like come up after the show and be like, thank you for talking about that. Yeah. And so I was just saying with the podcast, I was like, they say stick to what you know. And Jesus Christ, do I know intrusive thoughts. So yeah, that was the idea for the show, is just have someone on and each episode try and focus on a different kind of intrusive thought that we're battling, and not do the whole qualify it with, I know I should view it this way or that way. Just have an unfiltered, honest discussion of this is how it makes me feel, but then also go, so there's the problem. What can we do to actually improve from this? And I say all that, and it's on a comedy network in Canada. It's called Comedy Here Often, and it's like, it's lighthearted. It's supposed to take the piss out of a little bit, to be like, we can laugh at ourselves with this too without diminishing it. But it's also a vulnerable podcast and stuff like that. But we've only had a few episodes so far, but I'm happy with it, and it feels authentic and genuine to me. And everyone I've had on the show after has been like, man, I'm glad we had that conversation, and that means something to me. So yeah, the Intrusive Thoughtcast with Comedy Here Often, and it's a new podcast, but I'm enjoying it a lot so far, man.
Are they helping you get guests, the network?
They're going to, but I just honestly, like, I wasn't with the network first, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this myself. And then I showed it to a buddy, and he was like, let us do this. So they'll be helping with guests.
Is it audio only or video as well?
So far it's audio only. I'm just incompetent with this stuff. I tried setting up a camera, then realized like after, I'm like, I didn't put it in focus or frame it. I'm an idiot. So I want to get to that point.
Right.
I want to get to that point, but now it's just audio.
I tell people as a podcast consultant, I tell people to do audio for a year.
Yeah.
And then if the show's doing well in audio, it'll do okay in video.
Yeah.
It's just, people go out and they drop all this money. I'm doing a podcast. It's like, okay.
Yeah, man. I don't have that money to drop. I am very conscious about money. So
yeah,
I'm one of the comics, and a lot of them out here. I'm not saying everyone's a trust fund kid in LA, but I am definitely one of those people where it's like, if I have something, like, I have to work for it and I have to get the money myself. So that's exactly what I was thinking, like, build a foundation, and then if I'm lucky enough to get to a point where I can actually feasibly do that, worry about that when I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a network, right? Because they're going to promote you on all their other shows.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to spread the word.
Exactly.
That's cool, man. Can you give me an example of an intrusive thought? I'm trying to think of one.
So like the first episode I did with this comedian writer, Ashley Ray, who's great. they all kind of blend into other ones inevitably, but the first one we focused on a lot was FOMO. Okay. You know, that fear of missing out. And what I had talked about is I really would beat myself up when I was in Edmonton if I wasn't in New York at the time or before I got back out here. I'm like, fuck, I'm missing out, man. Like, I'm getting older and I know I'm a good comic, but it doesn't matter because I'm in Edmonton and nothing's going to happen. And I'm FOMO. I'm missing out on all these things. Then I get to LA and I'm like, fuck, now I'm missing out on all the real life shit. And like family, friends, I'm missing my niece and nephew grew up and I have the FOMO with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like just confidence, self-doubt, that sort of thing. And how the guest feels about that, how I feel about that. And again, just like an unfiltered, vulnerable, but lighthearted talk. And then ultimately with, it's essentially kind of like my own little bullshit way of doing cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
And then also try and end it on an optimistic note where you have to say something nice about people in general and something nice about yourself. And that's how the podcast always has to end.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
In my own little insignificant way, trying to do a little bit of good in such a horrible, cynical, jaded, negative time.
And how many episodes in are you right now?
So just posted the first. It's a bi-weekly podcast. So literally just posted the first two.
Yeah.
The first one was like an introductory episode I did with my wife. Actually, she just helped me with that, and then posted the one with Ashley. And then next week, or I don't know when this comes out, but on whatever the day is going to be.
This will be out next week.
Okay, so on the Tuesday of next week, I have the second episode coming out.
It's yesterday.
Yesterday it came out.
Yeah, came out yesterday.
Space-time continuum collapsed for a moment.
It did. The metaverse kind of folded in on itself.
Yeah, man.
Bi-weekly. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but I was just like I wanted to go all in with it, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be okay to just record a few on the same day, and like, you know, even if you just record 2 or 3 on the same day, it's like, all right, well, that's a month and a half covered. So
I mean, it's your show, but an idea that just came to me would be if you had one guest per week and you did a part 1 and part 2, like an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because finding guests is like, it's the constant struggle.
That will be the challenge, no doubt.
Finding a lot of people, but if you're going to get help from the network, and I don't by any means mean to be like, here's how you need to do your goddamn show.
No. You know what you're talking about, though.
I mean, I have made a couple for other people that do very well. My shows, we're working on it. Will you ever run out of negative thoughts to talk about? And that's such a shitty way to put it. But like, I hope you do. I hope you run out of things. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I doubt it, honestly. But a lot of my negativity is towards myself. And what's so wonderful about stand-up, and what I do feel very lucky about having stand-up be a part of my life, even though there are times, I have those times where I'm like, I wish I never got into this. I wish I never did stand-up because I'm so obsessed and so in love with it that it makes it that much more hard.
Right.
And what I've really enjoyed, though, through that negativity toward myself, is I have an outlet for it. And what has really been clicking with me lately, especially when I go on the road, though, is just I still qualify this by saying, like, there's punchlines in there. So it's not just me doing some therapeutic monologue. And I think the reason I do is it's like relatable to other people, is talking about the negativity and like the view of myself and the self-doubt that I experience. I try not to get too negative or cynical with like how stupid this is, and I'll say, well, these people or that people or whatever. But just knowing how I am, I think hopefully I can channel it better and I can mitigate it better. But I highly doubt I'll ever get to a point where I just don't have tons of negativity going on upstairs. I've been like that my whole life, and it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Sometimes it can be funny of how I think the most mundane things are so stupid.
Right.
That doesn't have to make you mad. It can just it's just how I'm wired.
I'm trying to do that same thing where like things that used to piss me off.
Yeah.
I'm now going, who cares? Like,
exactly.
What's the end game? Because I find myself like when other people are getting upset at silly shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Somebody cut you off in traffic.
Yeah.
Like I used to flip people off.
Yeah.
Now I give them a thumbs up. I'm like, you're doing great, buddy. You're doing great. You're doing your best. So I'm just, and it's a choice. I think it's a choice. And now there are, like you said, intrusive thoughts that come in. You can't fight those. They're coming in anyway.
Yeah.
But like, it's like training with anything else. Like you can get better at comedy, you can get better at driving, you can get better at podcasting. You can get better at like how you physically or mentally respond to these things that come into your head.
Practice, man.
It is practice.
Well, it's like people tough. Say it's very hard. But like it's one of those things. Having struggled with this stuff for so long, it just dawned on me when someone said what's probably a pretty obvious metaphor, but they're like, you have to do these exercises just like physically. You wouldn't go into a gym and be pissed like, man, I can't bench 300 pounds. I'm like, when's the last time you bench pressed? Literally never. It's like, well, what are you upset about that?
What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Like you have to work on that sort of thing. And yeah, that used to be my default thing. I used to be the guy that hated everything. That was like part of my identity. Like, you do that, nah, man, I hate that. I hate that. That guy sucks. I hate that guy. And I came to realize, like, I really don't hate anyone or anything. There are things in the world, obviously, that I hate what they stand for or whatever. But I don't hate any of that shit. I just find it bizarre or confusing. And it's so much easier when you actually put 1 ounce of thought into it and articulate yourself. I don't hate shit. I just find it silly.
Yeah,
you know,
or annoying, or why is that weird? You know,
like I think about this all the time in LA. I don't hate it, but I resent, and I think it's really stupid how much we put an emphasis on celebrity and fame. I think it's just some of the dumbest, most mindless shit in the world. Just because that person who is on that box that I worship, they're of more value than another human being. Like, they're absolutely not. That's so stupid.
They're not.
But I don't hate it. It's just silly.
Yeah, I feel both sides of that because I also want to be the guy worshipped on the box.
Do you want to be famous?
I want to be famous so bad.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
But, okay, so I've gone through many iterations of how I'm going to be famous.
Okay.
But, like, okay, I'm going to try and touch on this without going too far down the rabbit hole. But
I love it.
I grew up super religious. My parents were super Christian. And we were in church a lot. We even took vacations to other churches on the summer. Like,
fun, man.
So I'm around all this indoctrination. And as a kid, I was pretty articulate as a kid. And I was told all these things from adults. Like, you are blessed. You're going to be this thing. You're going to be this leader. You're going to be this person, right? So this programming of mine, I've had this ultra confidence my entire life of like, I'm going to be somebody.
Yeah.
And I've put literally zero work into becoming anybody at all. So I got in a band at 22.
Nice.
Moved out here with my band at 26.
Oh, okay.
That's what brought me out here. We all ended up being production assistants on commercials and movies and television. And here we are 16 years later. And it's like, where's the fame? Like, I was supposed to be famous as a musician. That didn't happen. But I want to be famous like I was the bass player, right?
Right.
So, like, I could still go to the grocery store, but when the four of us are in the same room, we're famous on that stage.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, name a bass player. Any bass player.
John Entwistle.
Okay, fine. that's probably the best example of a bass player. But for the most part, nobody's chasing down the bass player. I wanted the fame for an hour a night, and then I wanted to be able to, like, just go fuck off. And that's the same thing when I reverse engineered it for comedy. Like, I was like, I want to tour. I want to see the country. I want to get everything that I was owed from being in a band. How can I do that by myself? Oh, you can become a comedian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then you got to get funny, right?
Yeah.
But it does. It. I think it fits my personality. Like, I think
that's great.
Like, I love the sound of my own voice.
Sure.
I love hearing. I listen to my own show. Right.
Well, it sounds like you have your own version of what fame means, which is different for everyone. Because, like, yeah, no, hearing that, there was nothing about that made me like, oh God.
Yeah.
I truly have come to realize, like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
More like, I think I more so would not want that. It's more for me like in a shitty aspect of what I need to accomplish. I need to gain a level of notoriety that could be also construed as fame in order to have a more stable lifestyle within comedy. But, like, truly for me, like, and there's times where I've been like, I wish my personality was so different. I don't look down on the 9-to-5 job at all. And I hate when comedians are like, what am I going to be, a salesman? Those soul-sucking jobs. Like, you are a salesman, except you're selling yourself.
Yeah, you're selling tickets and 2 drinks to everybody that walks in the door.
You are the manufactured product that you're selling. So don't shit on the person. I know it's one thing if it's a like evil slickster used car salesman that will say anything to give you a shitty product. That's bad. But when it's like, oh no, this guy who does sales so he can actually feed himself and his family, like what a loser.
Right.
I don't like that kind of rhetoric, but if I'm not being creative, I go nuts, and I've always been that way, and nothing has ever evoked the kind of reaction out of me. A guy who's like pretty Eeyore-ish and doesn't get too, emotional about stuff, making people laugh has always just evoked that. There's no feeling like it. And then I never really played in bands, but like I was a drummer, and then with like my buddies, and I play a lot of music. And written a lot. Used to my older brother Sam and I and friends in our neighborhood, we always made these stupid like 80s action movie spoof films, just not wanting to be like famous, but loving and being like, I sure would love to do this for a living. You know what I mean? So that's the complicated part I often wrestle with here, especially in LA.
I feel silly for the way that I just described wanting to be famous, but
no, it makes sense.
I think what I really mean is acceptance and validation, right? And the acceptance and validation of, I work really hard on this show, and I produce it all by myself. I'm literally producing it right now while I'm talking to you, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to edit it, and then I'm going to cut out the clips. All that to say, when people watch it, I feel validated. I'm working hard on this thing, and I want people to enjoy it, and I want people to watch it. I want the views because I would really like this to be my full-time job, and I can't do that if y'all motherfuckers don't watch it, right?
You've created this thing, and you put effort into this thing, and you want it to be consumed.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I have a great backup career if this doesn't work out, right? I can still make commercials for the rest of my life if I want to. But this is what I really want to do, and this is helping me get towards comedy and get to interact with comedians, and like I just, that's what I need. I want the validation, and that's, if that ends up being fame, I don't need a lot. I'm not trying to make, if I make $1 million a year, super awesome. But if I can just match my current salary to do this shit right here, talking to you,
dude, exactly,
perfect.
So I think honestly, we pretty much see it in the same way. You just, again, you define it different ways, and whatever people want out of it. But it does kind of blow my mind when I've heard some people just be like, I just want to be famous, and it's like, you've put no thought into this,
right?
And it's tough. Like, who the hell am I to say this? A dude who's just been a wreck mentally for so much of his life. But it just, I almost like cringe just out of the sense I'm like, oh man, even if that happens, you're gonna be so unhappy,
right?
You know what I mean? Because
you're not fix whatever's
you're
broken.
Just basing that off of, I think at least, I imagine they're just basing it off of like, I want to be one of the beautiful loved people. Right. And then when it actually happens, it's like, you're not any more beautiful than anyone else. You're not actually any more loved than anyone else. You know what I mean? There's just this hollow celebrity worship culture we have, as opposed to, for me, I'm much more in line with that. Like, I love this thing. I love creativity, and specifically stand-up, more than I love any kind of thing I've ever done in my life.
Right.
And I would love that to be the way I make a living. And ideally, I'd make a good living doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, not to go back to the social media thing, but with the right, you don't need a lot of people to make a good living in comedy. Man. Bert Kreischer said on his podcast, if you have 80,000, like legit 80,000 fans, you're making good money.
Yeah.
If you get 80,000 people a week to listen to your fucking podcast, you don't need a tour. But those 80,000 people are going to show up.
Yeah.
And, even if it's, 500 people in this comedy club, and, tour around, you break down 80,000 people that'll come to a show. If you can see all 80,000 of those faces in 1 year, you're doing well.
Yeah, man.
Doing real well. So I don't know what the minimum number is to hit. Yeah. Is it 30,000? Can I make a living off of 30,000? Can I make a living off of 40,000?
Yeah.
But I sure hope to find out.
And man, and I also do feel it's going to be different. I say this, in 5 years from now, watch me just be a completely different human being. But like, I'm a dude, especially in my adult life, who has had like no money. And I don't think, some of us at least, and everyone has different situations, especially if you have kids and whatnot, I understand that. But I don't think we need as much money as we've been told we need to have a good life.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I was chasing money for a long time in my film career, and I didn't get it until my very, very late 30s. And by money, I don't mean I got stacks of gold anywhere.
Sure.
But like, I was able to get to the point where my one-day rate was like, if you had told me at 16 years old that like, you're gonna make that much in one day, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
But I don't work every day. I work like 6 or 8 days a month. So like, they, the rates have to be higher to keep us in the workforce, to keep us from taking a television show.
Yeah.
They need, film crew for commercials, so they pay us a little bit better. I forgot where I was going with that. But to bring it all back home, it's like, you don't. I got all these buddies, and I get it with the kid thing. Like, they got to feed the kids, they got to pay for college, they got, they're grinding it out for the kids. But I try and make exactly what I need and a little bit more every month because I'm freelance. I can pick and choose my jobs, and it's like, well, got my bills paid this month. Now I'm going to go back to that thing that I really love doing, and I'm going to keep making podcasts.
Exactly.
That was a long rant that I might cut out.
I thought it was great.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for the validation.
Yeah, dude.
And I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability about like your podcast. And like, a lot of people are. Sorry, I don't drink caffeine very often, and I just I'm on cocaine. So I have to center myself and try and slow down a little bit because I do like to talk faster than I think. But a lot of people are talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And not all of those people are qualified to talk about mental health. Mm-hmm. I think there's bandwagon people that are like, I'll get more followers if I talk about mental health. And it's like, man,
dude,
but the cream rises to the top. Let the authentic people come to the forefront.
That's just it, man. What pisses me off so much, and I talked about this in one of the episodes, though, I won't name the name because I don't want to give the person any kind of shine. But there's this dude I knew from basketball growing up, and all of a sudden, zero education, zero credentials, zero credibility. All of a sudden, he is like a mental health guru. That's his thing.
Yeah.
And that shit's dangerous, man. When you're having people essentially saying some bullshit narrative of like, you don't need to be on meds. You just need to exercise and eat these vitamins. It's just like, dude, that's dangerous.
Right.
And you're not qualified to talk about that. I make very clear on my thing, like, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just talking about my own experiences because that's all they know. And I talk to other people about theirs. And hopefully, whether you struggle with this stuff clinically or not, or whatever the case might be, hopefully you can enjoy this conversation and gain something from it. But I hate that, again, not to keep writing on social media so much now, but how many people are like coaches and experts on this thing. It's like,
I wrote a course for $39.95. You can it's like, dude,
you don't know anything about this thing. So, and especially when you're talking about something about mental health, that's fine if you want to be I'm going to teach you how to be the best bass player of all time, even though I cannot play the bass. That's a piss up. When you're talking about mental health, like, that shit's dangerous, man.
Yeah, you could really fuck somebody up.
That's again with this thing about trying to be famous and getting all these followers and the validation. That is not worth it, man.
Yeah,
that is not worth it. It is not that important.
And you see you see a couple of them that are out there like, I just went and did ayahuasca in Puerto Rico for a month and a half.
Yeah.
You're like, where did you get the money to go to Puerto Rico for a month and a half?
Mommy and daddy bankrolled your little trip.
Cool.
Yeah.
Or you got, 500,000 followers that pays you $1 jillion a year. Exactly. It's like, you can take the time to go fuck off in Puerto Rico for a month and a half.
Yeah,
but like, people pushing like the super cerebral, like psychedelic things. Like, I experimented with that a lot as a kid, and it really fucked me up for a very long time. Yeah, I right out of high school, I lived with my best friend and his family, and we did LSD 3 times a week for 13 weeks straight. And what we didn't know until the end of the summer was that the guy selling it to us was like, that's triple dip, right? So it was 9 hits of acid, 3 times a week for 13 weeks. I was not right.
9 hits of acid?
Yeah. And then, so what happens is eventually your body gets accustomed to all that acid, and then you start having bad trips.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you're like, I can't end on that. I can't end on a bad trip.
Oh, so you got to chase that good trip.
Chasing the dragon, and you're like, I gotta get one more, just one more, and then I'll be fine. And I'll be at peace, and I can leave it alone. And it was like 5 or 6 bad ones in a row, and it's like, I can't go to hell again. Yeah, I have to stop.
That's scary.
And I just, for 5 or 6 years after that, I was just like, I was fried.
Yeah, man. I'm a pretty big advocate of psychedelics, and I'm still like, make sure you do this responsibly.
Yeah, well, when you think you're taking 3.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, but there are those people that are very much just like, depression's not even a thing as long as you take acid. Like, I wish I got into psychedelics in a way. It's not even so much that I wish I got into psychedelics earlier. I just am pissed off that psychedelics weren't more accessible as an option, pretty much just because of stigma and corporate greed, not to sound like too much of a hippie. But my experiences specifically with shrooms have been pretty profound. Yeah. And I do hope that eventually I can get to a point where instead of taking antidepressants, I can do the whole microdosing. But I want it to be like a clinical thing. Yeah. And also, if you're on antidepressants, maybe don't do them because you can get a thing called Serotonin Syndrome, which is scary. So have to... so essentially, from what I understand, I think at least is it's targeting a lot of the same chemicals. So like for me, I've done some like intense amounts, like 6 grams of mushrooms.
Wow.
And had like a very moderate high.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like nullified. But there's this thing called serotonin syndrome that I'll try and butcher, but it can go really poorly if you're not careful. So it's not for everyone. But if you're going to do psychedelics, do it the right, like do homework and be safe about it.
So does that happen when you're on antidepressants and you take mushrooms, or is that?
It can happen that way. That's why, like, you can't do ayahuasca if you're on antidepressants.
Right.
Like, people like die that way.
Yeah.
Not like die. People die doing that. Yeah.
Ron White talked about that either on Rogan or on Two Bears. He was before he went down and did his ayahuasca, and he's not the guy that's like ayahuasca's for everybody. He's just like, this is what I did. I did it. And it helped him. I think it helped him get off alcohol, or he just quit alcohol. But he went and got checked out, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, we're not going to give you anything until you clean off of this shit for a month." Yeah. So he had to go and detox off all the antidepressants, and then he could do his ayahuasca.
I hope to do ayahuasca. Honestly, I really hope to do it. But I went off antidepressants cold turkey when I was 24, and that led to 3 of the worst years of my life, where I completely fell off the face of the earth and was it was a living hell. So I'm very scared about that sort of thing. And if I ever get to that point, I want to make sure it's like monitored and I'm led along the way, because you don't just listen to some douchebag with a white turtleneck on Instagram talking about how great his whatever his natural recipe of ayahuasca and acid and mushrooms and fucking ivermectin or whatever it is for depression. Like, don't listen to that shit.
And now this episode will have the learn more about COVID-19 label on Spotify. That's hilarious. But no, you're totally right. Don't go fucking around with drugs. Self-medication is, listen, I'm dealing with it myself. Like, I drink a little bit more than I should. Yeah. I'm weaning off. I've been off cigarettes for 14 months, but I'm still on the vapes. Hopefully by October, I'll be off the vapes.
Progress, man.
Yeah. Baby steps, right? Yeah. It's like, when you know better, you do better. Yeah. And, every day is progress.
You have to celebrate the little steps, whether we're talking about mental health or to get this back. Not that it's all related, man, but with comedy too. It's so easy when you're a dude like me who's been doing this for a while, but nobody knows who you are, and you can go do an hour pretty well, but still get in your head of like, does this even matter? It's so important to stop and celebrate those little steps. You know what I mean? Or maybe they're not even that little, but and also talking about what we were saying of the goal of getting to this level of notoriety or validation or whatever. If you're not going to enjoy, and I'm just starting to realize this, and I'm sure you know this same stuff too, but if you're not going to enjoy the process and the steps along the way, none of it matters anyways.
Dude,
right?
That hits home so hard, because it was like, this morning I had to get up and cut 2 clips and then drive here, and then, I'm late, I gotta get the coffee, and it was like, I was like, oh god damn it, what am I doing this for? And then I was like, you love this, or you wouldn't do it, so why not just be like,
this is fun.
I get to go get the coffee right now,
this is fun,
and I get to turn the lights on, and I get to go to the studio in the morning. So I just have to constantly remind myself. It's like, because what I'll do if I have I have a lot of episodes backed up right now, so what I'll do is sit on the couch and watch television. And that's a form of self-medication. And if not that, at 5 o'clock, my neighbor likes to go have happy hour. I'm like, it's drinking time. It's like, instead of just tackling the work, because I have a 2.5 hour episode that I've been putting off. I'm like, I'll put it out next week. And I know that's going to take me like 6 hours to edit. And I'm like, and there's some stuff in there that I know I need to cut out, and I'm going to just put it off, and I delay. And it's like, why don't I just choose to enjoy it? I get to go home and edit that, and like, it's a mindset thing, but it's hard.
It is hard.
It's the hardest part.
Very
is like
hard.
Teaching yourself to be appreciative of what you have, because there's always another step. The ladder never ends.
That's just that I think I've been listening to a lot of stuff and reading a lot of stuff, and not to oversimplify, because it's more than just this, but exactly what you said, there's always steps. So when you get to that point where you thought you'd be happy, hedonic adaptation, man, you're going to immediately adapt, like, but what's next? So that's why essentially at the root of it sounds like, at least, it all comes back down to mindfulness of being in the moment and being grateful. Yeah. And it's hard, but believe me, I am working on this. By no means am I like, take it from me. Yeah. As I have some moments where I do a really good job of it, and other times where I couldn't do a worse job if I even tried. But I feel those two things especially really lend themselves to just a better overall state of mind. Yeah. Yeah. I found myself like getting up and getting in the shower. The first thing I would do is get a big shower. Makes sense. That's a pattern, right? Yeah. But in the shower, I would start to have manic episodes of like, I would fixate on something, and then I would start my day in a negative pattern. Oh yeah. So
then I started getting up and riding my bike for an hour first.
Good.
And busting a sweat.
Yeah.
That's the only time. It's an indoor bike. It's the only time that I'll allow myself to play video games.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
If I want to play Xbox, I have to be on the exercise machine. Like, that's just the way it works.
Hell yeah.
I give myself an hour a day. And then busting that sweat, drinking that water, going outside, taking a breath of fresh air, maybe grabbing a smoothie, and then taking a shower. I'm not like fixated on anything anymore. I'm just like a little bit more calm, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do today? And I start planning it out.
Exactly.
So sometimes it could just be as easy as changing your schedule up.
Yeah, man. That's what's really blown my mind is of the more reading I've done and just through practicing is it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Yeah.
It can be very simple things that you just adjust a little bit. And if it's like you said, getting a sweat or just getting outside, it doesn't have to be some crazy system you put into place.
The thing that I think is tough for a lot of people, this is tough for me. I don't want to say a lot of people. I assume it's a lot of people because anything I like or think, I think everybody thinks. Of course. It's fucking narcissistic. But the mental health journey it can be challenging because some people are like, oh, you got to get into mindfulness and you got to get into meditation. And meditation, for me, is scary. Like,
being alone with your thoughts.
Being alone in them thoughts. Like, I like to think that I'm I think I can handle it, but I don't do it. So obviously, I mean, it's turned into a therapy session, but like.
I love this stuff. I love this.
The way people associate meditation and mental health. It's like, oh, when I started meditating, everything was great. Yeah. I think for me, the question is like, how do you know you're doing it right? How do you know you're in there and then like.
Yeah.
Like what's on the other side?
I'd really recommend getting one of those apps like Calm or something like that where you do guided meditations because it does a really good job of affirming to you like it's so okay when your mind strays. That's part of it. Yeah. And there really isn't a right or wrong way of doing it. Those have really, really helped me. And I need to do a better job, man, because when I'm really struggling, I'll meditate for a half hour every day and get so good at the practice, and then as soon as I'm good, I'm like, I don't need that anymore.
Right.
And then I'm a lunatic again and I need to go back to it. But I've had some like intense meditation experiences with no drugs or anything like that.
That's cool.
I think it's a pretty beautiful thing when you can just figure out what your own practice is and it's very subjective.
Yeah, I hear that it can be a different experience for everyone.
Yeah.
And not everybody has to crisscross applesauce with their fingers like this and listen to that.
You can take 10
bowl.
deep breaths. You can just sit upright and take 10 deep breaths, and that might be all the meditation you need to do.
Yeah. I like to get introspective when I'm at the beach. At the end of the day, I walk to the sunset, put my feet in the sand. Like, I don't know if that's meditation.
Meditative, probably.
Yeah, but it's calming. I'm grounding myself to the earth. I'm trying to validate myself. Like, tell me I did the right thing.
No, but that's good to be kind to yourself, though. It doesn't always have to be I'm not being productive enough.
Yeah.
What it seems to come down to, it doesn't have to always be that, right?
That is such a struggle in this world. It's like,
yes,
because you feel like the amount of work that you do is directly tied to like how soon you'll become successful.
Oh yeah.
And anytime you take a break for yourself or for socialization or hanging out with family or talking to friends, it's like, well, I could be working right now.
Yeah, man, I've been working on this. I'm gonna sound like such a Los Angeles wiener, but I've been working on this script I'm really psyched about. But my wife has to go back to Canada for a few weeks, and so I've been trying to spend more time with her, which is the right decision. But
Correct.
There are those times where I'm like, "What, do you not want it, man? Is this self-sabotage? You're not working on the thing."
Yeah,
and it's like, no, be a human being.
Right.
Yeah, man.
That goes back to like the life experiences or what we write about. So you have to. It's just. You just got to balance your time.
Exactly.
And go, this is the time that I don't think about and obsess about this career that I have. And then this is the time that I write about me obsessing about
that. Yeah, man. It's just important to remember that it's never perfect and the grass is always greener. Like I keep referencing it. But when I went on the road, like I said, I get really frustrated here sometimes when I'm not doing enough stand-up. Then I went and every night I had a 1 hour set to do, sometimes 2 1 hour sets to do. And it was kind of, my whole day was based around stand-up, and I'd do like radio in the morning, and then I'd write, and then I'd go do the thing. And it's not that I was unhappy, but I was also like, well, this can't be the lifestyle either. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you have to, we have to be able to find that balance. I keep saying you have to as if I've already found it. I have not. I have moments where I feel like, okay, maybe I'm making progress. I have a long ways to go to find that happy middle ground and just contentment and being okay with where I'm at, where I'm going, what I've done, all that good shit. It's hard,
dude.
man.
I learned that in Minnesota last weekend, 2 weekends ago. It was my first time on the road. It was a Thursday through Sunday. Came back Monday, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna sit in this hotel room till showtime. Then I'm gonna do 10 minutes. Okay, and then afterwards, you're all hyped up. And you're like, everybody from the club wants to go hang out. Like, okay, I'll go hang out with these people till 4 a.m. because who cares?
Yeah,
I can sleep until 5 p.m. I realized that that's the goal that I was working towards.
I know, man.
Isn't what I want.
Dude, I know. When I was in Winnipeg, the last day there, I looked at the forecast, and it was supposed to be rainy and thunderstorms all day. So I was like, I'm just going to go to the pool in the hotel, hang in the hot tub, ride a little bit. Turned out to just be a beautiful day. Mm-hmm. And I just I didn't plan things out well enough. And I was just sitting, looking out the window this beautiful day and being like, well, I'm not going to go out now because I have to, I want to get a nap before the shows. I have 2 hour-long sets to do tonight and whatever, it is what it is. But I was just sitting there, and it's a Saturday. I'm like, God, you're a fucking loser. What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
So, it's never perfect, but you'll find that the more you do it, you're balanced. But yeah, going on the road sounds really, really cool.
Right.
And especially if you go with someone, it is really, really cool. When you go by yourself, it's lonely, man.
Oh, I don't think I can do it. Yeah. I don't think that I can't. I can't. Obviously, I can't. I will, but I don't want to do a Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah.
If I can at all help it, it's...
Dude, this was a Tuesday to Saturday. When I did Ottawa and Toronto, it was Tuesday to Sunday. You get 1 day off, then I had to get to Toronto where it was Tuesday to Sunday.
By yourself?
By myself. I had some friends in both cities, so a few days I was able to get out. And that was in March when it was cold. It was sad, man.
Oh,
but it was great because it was a great club, and I love comedy so much that it was great. It was, and it was a temporary thing, so it was great.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird how things can be perceived good and bad at the same time.
Yeah.
It's I think about this all the time. To replace my film career with stand-up, I have to start as a headliner, and even then, the minimum deal for a weekend. Because I know, but my headliner told me what they made when I was in Minnesota. And I was like, wow, okay. I have to get to a level further than you now to quit my other job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, listen, I spent 15 years getting to where I'm at in my other career.
Yeah.
So it's and I've been telling people, hey, I'm getting out of this. And I've already started taking one foot out of that pool without having another foot to put my other, another pool to put my foot in. And I'm like, I'm just, whatever.
That's great though, because it's going to force you to pick up the slack. Right?
Jump and the net will appear. But
man.
Fuck, you can't do that in comedy.
It's
you
hard.
can't be like, I'll headline next weekend. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. You're going to write an hour tomorrow?
Let's go do a theater. Yeah.
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 That's how delusional I am.
Nah, man. Don't look at yourself as delusional. You're ambitious.
I'm very ambitious.
As long as it's because you know it's not a straightforward thing. So if you were saying actually well, I'll just start headline, then it'd be okay, let's maybe think this through a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's not that black and white, so you're not delusional.
But I think I can pull it off.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't think you could pull it off.
Yeah. I think it's my ass is writing checks. My mouth's writing checks. My ass can't cash, and eventually, it's when I went to Minnesota. I've been I've been doing some dabbling, right? Some writing here, writing there.
Sure.
And I tried to memorize word for word my 10-minute set.
Right.
Get on stage, blink.
Oh yeah.
Nothing. So
it's the best.
It's I have to figure out how my set is going to come together in a way that I can remember it, because I'm getting more and more opportunities to do shows and do sets.
Yeah.
And if I can't just go and do crowd work all the time.
Yeah. You will. It's all trial and error, man.
I wish I could. I could just do crowd work.
Oh, yeah.
I love talking to people. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
It's not everybody wants to be talked to, though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to be able to do both.
So we have done a little over an hour and 13. And we haven't even talked about the one thing that we said we were going to talk about.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So on your Instagram yesterday, which as this airs, it'll be 7 days ago. And it was in a story, so it's long gone unless you put it in your grid. But the question was, what's better? Who's saying something?
What means, the question was, excuse me, what means when it comes to comedy or film or music, or I'm using air quotes for art, what matters most to you, what's being said, or who is saying it? That was my question, because I was just curious, and I realized after the fact that you being one of them said both, and I wish I made an option, is it both? But 100% of people said what's being said.
Yeah.
And I think they mean that, and they might mean that. But I was also like, I don't think that's true.
Really? Because I was about to change my answer.
What was your answer going to be?
My answer was both, but now that I'm thinking about it harder, the right person could say the wrong thing, and the wrong person could say the right thing.
Right.
So I think what's being said is now, like, for example, I got in a fight in the DMs with somebody about something that Joe Rogan said on his podcast. He made a joke about homeless people, and one of my very leftist friends was like, he shouldn't talk about shooting homeless people. I'm like, dude, it's a joke.
Right.
But Joe Rogan is a classic example of, like, sometimes what he says is correct.
Right.
And people go, nothing Joe Rogan says is correct.
Yeah.
I hate that man. Fuck that dude.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to clip this. Great.
Isaac Abrams. Joe Rogan.
Oh, dude. Fucking.
That'd be great.
All press is good press.
Yeah, man.
But he's a great example of, like, he could eventually come around to saying something correct, and people will hate it just because he's the one that said it.
Yeah, exactly.
So where did you net out on it?
I mean, I personally, this is probably going to sound pretentious, but I am a bit pretentious if I'm being honest. I care much more about what is being said, and I think I might be very, very jaded being around comedy so much. I would wager most people care about who's saying it as opposed to what's being said. And the reason I say it is, A, I've been that guy. I grew up on Seinfeld, my favorite show of all time. When I was 21, I went and watched Jerry do stand-up, and I laughed the whole time, and I don't think I found much of what he said funny at all. But he was saying it, and I was so excited to see my comedy hero saying the things. It's like I was talking about earlier with the celebrity worship thing. The guy from The Box.
Yeah.
With the dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. That guy, he's saying things about Pop-Tarts that if anybody else said, I'd be like, that just isn't very good.
Right.
But he said it, so it's hilarious. And I won't name names or clubs, but I've seen some stuff here where comics, if an open micer said these jokes, it'd be like, that joke sucks.
Yep.
But the guy said it, and everybody loses their mind. We'll talk about Chappelle. He'll have an hour special where he maybe tells 3 punchlines, and people are like, that was poetry and comedy. Whereas if someone else said, they'd be like, what's this fucking guy talking about?
That guy's lost his mind.
Twitter's another good example of it's just kind of like, you'll see people who will tweet and they don't say anything, and it's like tens of thousands of retweets and likes, whereas someone who no one's ever heard of could have a joke that's hilarious, but no one cares because it's the person that no one's ever heard of.
Right.
So I get it. I'm not saying it's even necessarily an awful thing, but 100% of people to say what's being said, I'm like, then why do blockbuster movies suck so much?
Right.
Why does so much top 40 music suck so much? Why does so much of what we see suck? It's because who's saying it, and we care more about what's being said as opposed, who is saying it as opposed to what's being said. That's my theory. Last thing, I think what matters initially is what's being said, but then the person becomes a commodity, and they're just the person on the box now, and we don't really care anymore.
I think you nailed it with the guy says it one way and the open micer says it another way. I think who is saying it changes what is being said.
Absolutely.
So now I'm back to both.
Yeah, I think it's both. It's both. I should have made that an option. That was too much of a binary option. But 100% of people to say what's being said, I'm like, you're lying to yourself. A few of you are lying to yourself, and that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. I lie to myself constantly, so I get it.
I don't.
Not this guy.
No, that was another lie to myself. Remind me how you end your show again.
The guest and myself have to say 2 things. We have to say something nice about people as a whole, and we have to say something nice about ourselves.
All right. Before we do that, plug your show one more time.
It's the Intrusive Thoughtcast. It's through Comedy Here Often, but you can get it wherever you get podcasts. The Intrusive Thoughtcast. It's a new pod, but honestly, I don't say that. I don't give myself credit easily. I think it's a good podcast, and if you could subscribe or give it a listen, that'd be amazing.
Cool. And then let's do the thing. So I say something good about
say something good about people as a whole, people in
as
general.
a whole.
Before start with that.
Something positive, I assume. Not like everyone's an idiot. Like
no, something good.
Something
yeah,
good.
exactly. Something positive about people.
All right, all people, like as a whole. I think we all have more love to give. Yeah. Nope, that's a negative. That's some people not doing what I think they should be doing.
It's hard.
It is. This is harder than I thought. All people together.
Well, just human beings in general.
Yeah.
Understanding there's going to be people in this mix who don't fit this bill, but in general,
I think generally people are good.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's the bad actors and the bad apples and stuff, but like for the most part, I think people as a whole just are looking for happiness and they just want to be loved and be loved.
I like what you said. I think regardless if you're right wing, left wing, whatever side, when you talk to someone individually, I think far more often than not, people are pretty open-minded, kind-hearted, decent people. It's when you get them together and the mob mentality kicks in, that's like, oh wow, we are just an evil species.
Yeah.
But on an individual basis, I agree. I think most people are good.
Yeah.
Now say something good about yourself.
Something good about myself. I think I'm a good podcaster.
It's great.
And I think you are too.
Oh, thanks, man. I will. Yeah, I also think you are a good podcaster.
Thank you.
And I will say about myself, I think I'm starting to do a better job of judging people less harshly.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's just taking up space in your head rent free.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair to judge people that hard. It's not.
And the time that you're taking to judge people, you could be writing jokes.
Yeah, man. Could be productive. We could be grinding.
We could be working harder. We actually have to go because we have more work to do.
Hey, man. We got to grind.
Hilarious. Henry, sir. Do people say it like that?
Yeah, man.
Or do because that's because I mean you call it everybody sir, right? So it's like, well, Henry, sir.
That's a great last name. I have to admit.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man.
Henry, sir. With the point on the end. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, man. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
Thanks
this
for
was
having
great.
me.
This was probably going to be one of the more poignant episodes.
Right on, man.
Normally it's fart jokes and
stuff. I suck at the riffing thing. I'm sorry. I hope this wasn't too.
No,
all right.
I think people are really going to love it.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. And we'll see you guys next time on the Isaac Abrams Show, everybody.